I think the only universal truth that I've found so far in my 20 years of living is the idea of moderation and everything in moderation. Because, try to name something that it doesn't apply to. I can't really think of anything. You can't, the overindulgence in your sexual desires, overindulgence in social media, intemperance with video games, all of that, it applies to that. And then a lot of people always like to bring up the idea that, oh, too much of anything is a bad thing, too much water can kill you, and I think all these things are valid. So I haven't really found anything else yet, any other universal principles that can apply to anything as broadly as the idea of everything in moderation. Because the extreme of anything can really get you in a bad spot, and that's kind of why this kind of goes to my idea of thinking about politics. Because I don't know if you're too invested in United States politics, but I'm not either, so I can't even really say that I know too much. But I'm just talking about the idea of politics, of either being a Republican or being a Democrat, or being black or white, just being on the extreme ends. I think that is kind of a dangerous game to play, and not that there's anything wrong with being a Democrat or there's anything wrong with being a Republican exclusively, because I guess it's important to kind of align your views with something. But I think that once you get to the extreme ends, right, if you go super Republican and then that's all free market, that's not an ideal way. Or if you go to the far end of the left, where you want some communist government dictator, that's not probably going to be too good either. So even within those ends of the scale, you have to have moderation in it. But I guess that's kind of just what I'm trying to say, is it deals a lot with habits, right? With video games, you can't spend all 16 of your waking hours playing video games, because then you'll probably shrivel up because you haven't eaten or anything like that. You haven't left your chair, and your back is probably rounded to all hell. So posture check right now. Make sure you're sitting up straight as you're watching this. And if you're participating in my target practice, then that's a good reminder as well. But I think I don't know, I can't really think of any other universal principle like that, everything in moderation. And I can't really think of a place that it doesn't apply, because for the most part, even with ideologies and stuff like that, you can't really have too much of the extreme. If you go too far into the red pill, that's not necessarily a good thing either. And I've had some awakenings with that, or had some realizations about the red pill, that it's not entirely aligned with what I want my worldview to be. But I don't know, because then if you go too far to the extreme of the red pill, then you get into some murky waters of sexism and misogyny. Even though in the past, I'll admit that when I was very consumed with the red pill and stuff like that, I didn't really see it as misogyny. But I do, now that I've kind of tried to hear the other side, and I'm not just oh, let's do, I don't know, now that I've kind of heard the other side, and I'm not fully extreme, oh, alpha male, red pill, I don't even know what sigma male is, to be honest. But all of that, now that I'm not solely devoted to one side, and I've heard the other side of the story, I do see where the criticism comes into play. And I'm trying to reformulate my worldview from the red pill exclusively to incorporate a more, colleges love saying, a holistic view of the world, rather than just taking one side and believing everything they say. So I'm trying to apply the idea of moderation towards my own worldview and thinking, which is still kind of hard because I think I'm a little bit deep rooted into that philosophy, and it's been a couple years, probably around like 2 to 3 years, where that's like kind of all I've been consuming, I guess, or not that that's all that I've known, because there have been like 17 years before that where I was like quote unquote blue pilled. But I don't know, just trying to take things, these principles, especially of moderation, apply it to places in my life. I think another place that I struggle with this is in my work sometimes. Maybe not lately, because I've low-key been kind of off track. I haven't been solely devoted to my work like I try to be. But that's a place where I try. It happens during school, I think, a lot, because during the school year I have like literal things and homeworks and exams to study for and assignments to complete, so I can kind of just submerge myself in all of that, and it's really hard for me to get away from trying to keep checking things off the list. So applying moderation to most places in my life, that is something that I'm working towards. And I think that's going to be the video for today. If you have any other universal principles that can apply to anything as broadly as the idea of moderation, let me know in the comments, because I'm actually curious. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head right now, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and remember to stay on target.